Today's gonna be a fun one. It's a bit of a minefield today. Let me reset this for a second. Today we're gonna be talking about Heldentenor Fach. We're gonna be talking about what it is to be heroic. I guess we're gonna even talk about dangerous topics like what it is to be manly, but also what it means to be historical, and I guess about historical performance practices and how do we read history, and how does that inform what we do on the stage? Maybe beyond arguments like whether or not opera is a museum, or if it's, a living art form, or some kind of hybrid of both. That's pretty cool. That's cool. Those are cool topics. Those are important topics. And we can talk about that. But just from the point of view of are we doing good history when we are doing music history and history of music when it comes to opera in particular and performance practice? And this brings us to the singer that was brought up, because I brought him up at the end of the live stream yesterday, and that's Klaus Florian Vogt, who many of you have asked me to comment about, and I've been a bit reluctant, and we'll explain why. And I guess the big word we're going to be exploring today, and what it has to do with history, is chest voice. Chest voice is, well, who knows what it actually is? What is chest voice?
Dovrebbe un cantante servirsi della voce di petto? No.
So that's kind of legendary, hilarious clip of Stefan Zucker interviewing, I think her name is Fedora Barbieri. I'm so bad with names. Anyway, famous person that we're all supposed to know. And he's asking her if you should ever sing in chest voice. And it's kind of hilarious because she says no, but her answer is metallic. And then she's seen commenting on this topic many times with a voice that would be difficult not to describe as chest voice. She sounds... Well, let's listen to this again, and if we weren't looking and we were asking, which of these two is more masculine?
Dovrebbe un cantante servirsi della voce di petto? No.
I mean, it's a real toss-up. But we can say that maybe we don't think of this first sound that we heard, the guy asking the question.
Dovrebbe un cantante servirsi della voce di petto? No.
Which translated is, should a singer use the chest voice? Nobody, I think, would reasonably say that is a chesty sound. So we can start there. We could start saying that is definitely not chest voice. Okay. And I guess that's how you do the necessary intellectual things to get to certain places. And one of the places that you can get to is...
Why did Floyd singing
this whole
disappear among men
watch a bit.
in the opera house? Opera was castrato dominated until 1800 and beyond. For
okay.
2 centuries.
So this, I guess, yearning for the days of castrato, of not possibly being threatened by the masculinity of anyone who's on the stage. And where it gets us in the end
piece that
can be.
Stefan Zucker is going to present to us will be A Mes Amis,
I think places
Pour
we
mon
might
âme,
consider
from the Fille
absurd.
du Régiment by Donizetti. Our
So-
pianist is Judith Nietzsche. Stefan Zucker.
I'm not trying to be mean here. And thank you, Samuel Lucena there. All right. And there's not a hint of irony here. Just want to point this out, that this is not a joke. This is a serious offering. And I guess we got to be careful, because the point of this show is not to be mean. The point of any of this is not to be mean. But we need to ask if this is what history is getting us. And let's maybe explore what the historical idea that he's talking about is. If this is what it gets us, and it's absurd on its face, and now we're left with the question, is this what people sounded like? And I'm just, it's so subjective that people actually enjoyed this and thought it was cool, ever. And this is the great art that we keep reading about, that people were thronged to the theaters to see it, and maybe could cause riots if you didn't do it the way people wanted, etc., etc. So this is the art form, this great art form that he's talking about. That's this. And people say about this that even though he's a bad singer, he's a brilliant musicologist. You see this kind of comment about this guy. This singer is named Stefan Zucker, and he's the historian or musicologist, if you will, that we were watching 2 seconds ago. And we're going to be interested in the vocal coordinations he's using today. And we're going to make a different comparison, but we're going to start with this as a basis for a frame of mind that we can call the historical frame of mind, if you will, or I don't know, maybe we'll give it a different name. But it sounds like this if you apply it, or it can sound like this if you apply it seriously. And then the question is, when something is this absurd on its face, so this is being presented as possibly the way this piece of music was historically sung and adored by thousands. Well, if we don't accept that, then maybe we dig around. We're motivated to dig around a little bit into the history a little bit and ask, is he really getting this right? Or is actually the history wrong? Or is there something wrong with the kind of music history that comes up with the idea that they had this chest voice and head voice concept? And since he's definitely not in chest voice, he must be in head voice. And when they were talking about using head voice or not using chest voice or something like that, I'm not sure exactly what the construct is at this point, that this is what we mean. this is not chest voice, hence it's head voice. It must be, it's like one or the other kind of thing. So here we have, let's listen to some more head voice. Dear God, it's atrocious. Dear God. Oh, Stefan. I had to hear this, so you have to hear this. Yeah, I'm gonna make you watch the whole thing.
Thank you, Stefan. Now, next we have Rosina Wolf, who has performed
Just that reaction, I love it.
Thank you, Stefan. Now, next.
Okay. So, assuming you're with me that this is absurd, then we have to start to ask, what could he be getting wrong about the history? And then you might also be asking, like, what does that have to do with these two Helden tenors that I'm going to be comparing today, singing Lohengrin's Infernum Land? And the comparison I would like to make is that Stefan Zucker is actually singing his Donizetti here entirely in the neutral vocal mode, so without any metal in the sound. And he's also taken so much weight out of the voice that we could call it falsetto. Falsetto neutral, according to complete vocal technique. And then the question is that what we mean by head voice, or is there maybe something in between? And when we're reading history, how do we know what they meant if someone's mentioning head voice and chest voice, or the castrati, etc.? What I think actually happened here is that this guy is sounding as much as he can like the few sound examples he found of a time that he yearns for, and that is the time of genital mutilation of little boys to make them sound a certain way, maybe when they're adults. We'll take a look in a second, but it sounds like the sounds he's imitating are these sounds from the last castrato, who was actually recorded at some point. So we have some sense of what he sounded like. And then this sense of category, if you will, now that you've defined something as either chest or head, I guess, you've decided that it's in some way legitimate because you go into some books that you found and where you see the word head voice, you imagine this sound that you got by imitating some recording of a castrato. And then you start to interpret everything that you read that way. And we have this whole course of study that actually revolves around this kind of thing. And then we have these concepts and categories that we call Fach that revolve around this kind of thing. And the point I thought I might try to get across today, or to explore today, is, okay, it does feel absurd in this instance to say that his Fach is whatever, someone that sang this role historically. I mean, there's just no way anybody was ever interested in this historically. It doesn't make any sense. It's extremely low quality. It's just really bad and awkward. So that's not plausible that it meets any kind of standard in that way. But nonetheless, it's really interesting that by using the tools of history and fudging these couple of little things, it's possible to get people to take you seriously. So people will say, oh yeah, this sounds ridiculous, but he's a brilliant musicologist. But if he's a brilliant musicologist, how does he come to the conclusion that this is in some way not embarrassing to do, or not, that this is in some way what anyone was intentionally trying to do ever, to try to attract people to a theater, to get them to listen to something and actually maybe even pay money for the privilege.
Songs for which he is best known.
And that brings us to what I feel is kind of the polar opposite of this. I could be wrong. It could be that the gentleman we're about to hear got all of his ideas about how to deliver the music that we're about to hear from history books. I don't know. Maybe he got it from history books. Maybe he's trying to follow some historical concept. But maybe also he's imitating sounds from his life and maybe from his imagination that inspire him, and that for him make you feel like he is who he says he is. So he's this invincible warrior, basically. Which I guess if you're an invincible warrior, you're not really that all that much of a warrior, right? Because nobody can hurt you. So, but anyway, he's this ass-kicking warrior and extremely heroic. Flies around on a swan, which is cool. Spoiler alert, the swan is the brother of this dude this girl that he's in love with. But anyway, the sound of a hero, So what do we think of? Well, we think of maybe someone who can lead people into battle. But also we think of the sounds of physical strength, you know? And if we think of someone who's able to lead, then I guess it also implies some kind of intelligence. But to me, the hero, because I'm thinking of this sound of strength, the hero should have a metallic sound. I like, you know, if it's the strongest sounds that we have. If you take anyone, any person, and you teach them the 4 vocal modes from Complete Vocal Technique. They call them neutral, curbing, edge, and overdrive. And let's say you teach them how to sing B4, and you teach them how to do it with a pretty low larynx, and you teach them how to do it in fuller density, and you teach them how to do it in the mode that CVT calls edge, and they do it on the vowel eh. That's probably the most powerful sound that person can make. Period. I guess if we're talking about I guess we're talking about a guy. It's maybe not the most powerful sound someone like Birgit Nilsson could make, and I don't even know how these big sopranos get to have such a big sound. I don't know how it works. I have to say this at the outset. So when I read the text from this opera, shall we say, to me, it sounds, in my imagination, like this.
From Richard Wagner's opera, Lohengrin.
In fernem Land, unnahbar euren Schritten, ich eine Burg im Mondsalvat genannt. Heiliger Tempel stehe dort inmitten, so kostbar, also werde nichts bekannt. In ein Gefäß von wundertätigem Segen wird dort...
Stop there for a second. I can't tell you how many times I studied this clip. And actually, I was just working with this just wonderful student, so, extremely intelligent and quick. And I was telling her, why don't you, instead of thinking of the size of the mouth opening you're going to make and trying to kind of push or pull your way to that size mouth opening, because we were trying to get a particular, a big enough size mouth opening to get the sound that she was after on those pitches and vowels and the vocal coordination that she was using. And, the mouth was getting stuck, like a little bit closed. And this happens to me all the time. And I studied this video so many freaking times. And what I studied it for is, I'll rewind this a bit, because when we zoom in on his face, watch the speed with which he opens his mouth. That's the thing to watch. So whatever the opening actually winds up being, and you'll notice like when he's quieter, it's smaller, and then when he gets louder, it's bigger. And when he gets higher in pitch, it tends to be a bigger mouth opening. But watch how quick and snappy the speed is with which he gets from closed to open. And then we'll talk in a second about how that relates to what shape you actually wind up with. So I'll rewind here to where we get to zoom in on him. Yeah. So these super snappy openings, and there's these two really important mouth opening moves that I see are this one, this super swift kind of popping or dropping of the jaw. Let me get this out of the way. Right, and then the other one that we've talked about in a previous live stream was when you'll see a singer basically holding this in place, and then they're like flipping their whole head open to open the jaw. So this is that other one that gives you that it's gonna go, in my opinion, with a more covered, more mellow sound, which is what he's doing here. Or in the overdrive direction than edge if you're coming from complete vocal technique, which you probably aren't, but I think you should. And what I was discussing with the student, she was just so awesome, just best ever. But anyway, what I was discussing with her was that to get to the particular shape that you want, when you want it to be a little bit bigger, don't think about making a big size. Think about moving fast. Think about getting there as fast as you can. And then closing as fast as you can as well. And don't be afraid to close your mouth. Just be ready to pop it open as fast as you can. And that actually, when you want to measure how big the opening is, you can figure that out by how fast you moved, because everyone takes about the same time to open, right? So the only thing that's going to change is the speed, and as a result of that, you get a different size opening. So just super cool detail I wanted to point out. But anyway, this sound is not aggressive now. It's mellow. But to me, what makes it heroic anyway, already, before we get loud, it's not about volume, is that it has this metallic character to it, this metallic sound. And even though he's kind of reducing it and covering it, it's there underneath. You always feel something powerful beneath that could just come out at any moment. So even when it's more mellow, it's like it's a lion being gentle. And see, now we have that actually wasn't the mellow sound. This was the other way of opening, and he's so friggin', he sneaks it in how he gets there, but we're getting from this more tucked position. And if I just go through a bit, now we get into this more extended position. So if we go back, extended, right? But he's coming out of this more tucked. It doesn't look like a lot, but this head rotation is a lot. So if you look at, Hang on 1 second. We'll get this out here. I should have the whiteboard today for you. So let's see if this works. Oops. Oh, it's working. I can already. Oh, it's working too well. I don't want that yet. I wanted to put this over here. Let's clear this off. Right. So if you think of the chin, the chest, and then like the hyoid or larynx, right, together as a fist. And for this more kind of covered coordination, like you want to keep that tight. And you can pop your jaw down into there, no problem. But you don't want to rotate your head away and break this circle, right? And then he sneaks into this other thing. So now now we're going to move into a different coordination. So it doesn't look like a lot. But when some guys, for instance, to get this chin closer to the chest, they really tuck the head down because the chest is lower. And then they, it's a different thing. Sort of, but you see it a lot. A lot of baritones, basses do this kind of thing. Whereas Melchior splits the difference. He lifts the chest, and then he retracts the neck, and then you make this little. I think of it as a fist. We were looking at some of the anatomy yesterday, not in this region per se, but of the epiglottis combined with the larynx. And sort of getting the idea of you make certain gestures with the two together, like you could make a gesture with your hand. You'll do different shapes, and these different shapes make different sounds. So this as well you can think of as a gesture, or almost like making a fist, and you could think of the fist as consisting of the tongue, the chin, and the chest, and then you can you stabilize that, and you can pull on it with the muscles that are coming from your shoulders to your larynx, called the omohyoideus muscles. Yeah. So, and that's pretty cool. And then the other thing I really wanted to point out. And you guys cannot see. There's the fist. Sorry, guys. I didn't realize I put you in that other screen. So, but anyway, that's what I was talking about. Yeah. And again, to demonstrate how those are going to be different when you're in a metallic coordination. When I stabilize the front down and I want to get this more mellow sound in complete vocal technique, they talk about overdrive, and I think this is more based on this. I wind up with more round shapes. And I have to keep these close together. Infernum Land. And that's different from these open gestures, if you will, more based on extension. And those could involve more subtle lifting, but they could also involve what can look like the South Park Canadians, where the head is like moving like this when the singer is articulating.
Es war das Sein der Menschen reinste Pflegen, der von einer Engelschar gebracht. Alljährlich
So now
Nacht
this is the more open position.
alljährlich Nacht vom Himmel eine Taube.
What else we could say about this? The nasal passage is kept absolutely shut, except for N consonants, N, M, etc. That require the nose to be open. But sometimes, in order to make that easier, those consonants are substituted for D. So N can be substituted for a very light D. B can be substituted for a very light... M can be substituted for a very light B. And that's done to keep the velum from having to open and then close again, especially if you're still going to be able to recognize the word. That's cool. So listen to that Wunder vowel. It's two vowels, actually. It winds up being a diphthong, but I think that's because as he's singing the vowel, he's retracting the tongue, and that's going into area of interest number 4. And remember, area of interest number 4 is going to lower the second resonance whenever you start to constrict that. But what's cool about this is most of the ooh kind of sounds and related to ooh or oh sounds that people make involve this rounding of the lips, and that pushes the first and second resonances of the voice together, and it registers as this ooh. But there's another way. Sorry guys. There's a way to kind of fake this ooh vowel, and also an ooh and oh can be faked with this peanut trick. And the peanut trick is, you imagine you have a peanut on the back of your tongue, and you're gonna hold that peanut between your pharynx and the back of your tongue, or the middle of your tongue, or you're gonna have to experiment with which part of your tongue. But essentially, you're pulling your tongue up behind your ears and looking for something that's like, and use this affect. If someone says something gross and you go, ew, 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 ooh, 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 Wunder, and the more I want it to be ooh, the more I pull back on the tongue while lifting these upper lips. So it's lift the upper lips and pull the peanut into the pharynx. And for some, it's not for some weird reason, this perturbation theory it totally predicts that this is what's going to happen. But that makes it into kind of an ooh substitute sound based on ooh. So that was cool. Let's look at that. Wunder. But you'll see this lip flare instead of the rounding with that. And it's really cool. So this, if you're not, if this isn't occurring to you, I have watched this video many, many times, and if it was possible to like wear out a video, I would have worn out this video, because this is like absolute gold for the details. It's if you guys like the background music or not that I have. I guess we're just gonna screw the copyright stuff. We're gonna listen to the whole thing, because this just deserves to be heard. So that's that again. That's similar to that ooh thing. And this is kind of a sneaky way to get this more open thing without rotating the whole head up, and it's gonna be a little bit less extreme as far as the sound, which is perfect for this aria. It's not supposed to be the loudest thing in the world. So here you have this lip elevation combined, which is gonna. So if you experiment with it, it brightens the sound, almost makes it kind of twangy. But it's shortening area of interest number 1, which are you guys going to make me go over what the areas of interest are? Maybe. Let me go over this with you guys real quick. See if I can bring it up. Oh, there's our pink trombone. The see. Interact with this real quick. Okay. So this is a vocal tract. I'll get the voice working here. And here was. Okay, let's stop this for a second. Area of interest number 1 was the whole thing. So think of a line that goes from the start. Whoops. Let's see here. Don't gotta come up on my projector. Second, guys, I'm gonna try to get this working here. Okay, there we go. Good. Okay, so if you think of a line going from where the sound starts at the beginning of the vocal tract, then you were to take the shortest point, not the best there drawing, but let's say you take you did it right, and you took the shortest point from the beginning of the vocal tract to the end of the vocal tract out the mouth. That would be area of interest number 1. And then when you area of interest number 1. When you shorten area of interest number 1, when you shorten the vocal tract, that's going to raise all the resonances of the vocal tract. Let me make my. That's going to work a bit better. AOI 1, that was the whole length of the vocal tract. And let's say, I'm going to put on the left here what happens when you make things smaller. So when you shorten it, you raise all the resonances of the vocal tract. It's a little bit more complicated. You can watch my series on vocal acoustics if you want to know how this works, but you're doing it in a different way from these next ones. The end of the vocal tract, the mouth, that's area of interest number 2. Area of interest number 2 is going to lower things when you make it smaller. Right here at the beginning of the vocal tract, near the larynx, and all the way to the middle, and getting weaker as you get away from it, which applies to all of these, that's area of interest number 3. And when you make that smaller, it makes all the vocal tract resonances go up. If you go exactly 2/3 of the way, and remember this changes when you change the length, when you change area of interest number 1, you wind up changing the locations of area of interest, at least one of either 3 or 2, and then therefore also 4 and 5, because it's 2/3 and 1/3 of the way. So area of interest number 4, right? Anytime you constrict that or make it smaller, that's going to lower, but it's only going to lower the second resonance. And then area of interest number 5, that's going to, again, do the opposite. If you've noticed the pattern, things go opposite. So that's going to raise the second resonance. And I can quickly demonstrate that for you here. Clean it up a bit, but I'll put my labels back. 3, 4, 5, 2. Okay. Turn the voice on. When I make a constriction, let's see. Now I'll make 2 smaller. Lower, higher. Right? And if I move a little further away from it, it kind of has the same effect, right? But it's weaker. So the further I get, let's reset it. The further I get from that area of interest number 2, the weaker the effect is, but it's still the same effect. And so that's right. If you're guessing, when I do something to area of interest number 5, I'm also doing something to area of interest number 2, but just weaker, right? And area of interest number 2 and 3 reach all the way to the middle of the vocal tract. Okay. So now let's look at what happens to area of interest number 3. That's raising things when I make it smaller. And if I look at number 4, that's lowering things. Lowering the second resonance specifically. And then number 5. That's raising. Makes it brighter. Brighter, darker. When you pull back your tongue. Okay? So that's the quick way to orient yourself around your vocal tract. And so now you know when I'm talking about these areas of interest. So when you raise the upper lip, you make a change to area of interest number 2, and then if you watch what happens to the resonances of your vocal tract, it's almost as if you moved your tongue. Well, it is. It's as if you moved your tongue, even if you kept your tongue still. Because when you did that, you changed what is 2/3 of the way, what is 1/3 of the way. So your tongue is relative to 1/3 of the way, now in a different place, and you changed your sound. So I hope that helps. But in any case, this alternative way of articulation that is nothing like what I'm using to talk to you now includes things like when I have ooh, I might think about pretending like I have a peanut in the back of on my tongue in the back and lifting my upper lip. And the way Lauritz Melchior is doing that is just perfect. And unfortunately, we're not going to have video with the next singer. So I'm just going to have to get you to trust me about how that is going to work more like the way you and I speak when we're just talking normally, except it's really loud. Okay. So good. This, I would all consider all of this. This is rather reserved singing. He can sing a lot louder than this. He's keeping the mouth opening down and sort of like just keeping everything mellow and low key because of the text, just because of what's in the text. Pay attention to that. The speed again. It's incredible. It's consistent. You know, he's not suddenly singing with his mouth really closed, unless he wants to get quiet. Just amazing. That maybe the one that could be slightly open velum to help mellow the sound, slightly opening the nose. Yeah. So, in my opinion, there, what you got is the soft palate it's rounded, so it's like it's high and contributing to this darkness because you know when you raise the soft palate, you're making room in area of interest number 4, so it darkens the sound. But you can have it rounded and then still slip it open a little bit because to keep the air from coming out the nose, which has a huge effect on the resonance by removing some of it, it's like anti-resonance, if you will. Opening the nose like that doesn't have to sound like this where it becomes brighter. You can You can round the soft palate, shall we say, while still opening it. And that's actually the basis for making all these different vowels in French that are nasal. And they don't all sound the same. So you have anyway, little detail about soft palate opening versus raising. It's not quite the same. Yeah, Paul, we watched Zucker. We can watch Zucker again if you want. We watched Zucker though for a good reason, because we're going Zucker. Zucker, Melchior, and then we're going to go to Klaus Florian Vogt, because we're going to make a difference between So, we're going to make a difference between okay, it's like this is how I think. This is how I think Lohengrin should sound. Okay. This to me is like, this is what to copy. But and the one biggest difference between Melchior and then we'll hear in Vogt is going to be Melchior is singing in overdrive and edge and stuff, and Vogt is completely in neutral the entire time, not a hint of metal. But that's also true for Zucker. But still, we have to say that Vogt is a whole lot more dignified than Zucker. So I just wanted to set it up that I'm not like I'm not saying that anyone who sings in neutral is a joke. So first I wanted to have a clear, someone who clearly is a total fucking joke. Stefan Zucker. But then maybe I thought I would make the point that Fach has now destroyed itself. The concept has destroyed itself. Like, people took Fach seriously, and it's supposed to give us this, and instead it's not. It's not giving us this. It's not actually winding up preserving any kind of traditions. We're just rewriting how things sound anyway. And we just find excuses like, oh, that's head, chest, so whatever. And we find ways to say it sounds heroic or something. I don't know.
Dovrebbe un cantante servirsi della voce di petto? No.
No! Anyway, yeah. Just watch Melchior. Aha, okay. So this O is not based on this peanut trick. Let's see what it looked like. So instead, it's something with the lips. And I had to rewind because I missed it. I didn't see it. But it's clearly audible what the difference is between a more speech-like way of making an O sound, and then this weird kind of peanut trick. You put a peanut on your tongue, and however much darkness you want the vowel to have, you get it by squeezing the peanut into your pharynx. Somewhere back there, towards your ears, maybe, to something like that. Area of interest number 4, in other words. And I guess that's an example of how I would say you can how you can apply this area of interest thing that I keep going on about, is you can use it to figure out Melchior's vowels, for instance. And I guess while, now that you brought it up, Paul, this is your fault. Now I'm going to have to say it's time for commercial break. way. Yeah. And you don't just have to be interested in lessons to write to me. You know, you can just write to me if there's something you'd like to cover on the show. And if you want to send some suggestions, like for instance, Brady, thank you very much, Brady Call. Brady is the one who suggested we watch Loritz Melchior, and it's been on my mind for a while. And also one of my favorite videos of someone singing of all time. This is from the Firestone Hour. You know, the opera used to be important, and they used to sell tires for people's cars and stuff. This was Firestone. Gasoline and things used to be sold with this kind of singing, because this kind of singing is freaking awesome. Yeah. Breaking the rules of Garcia there with the teeth on this A. But absolutely essential. Let's see it again. Well, watch him get out of this speech like. So, right? Straight out with the teeth. Kind of thing. Zoe. I don't know. I have to imitate that. I have to break that one down, but just really, really cool. They talk about the bite in rock singing circles and stuff. That's a good example of it.
So hieß des Grolles Degen enthielt, du des Lionauge fien. Es weht uns drum, als Zweifel nicht fegen, erkennt ihr ihn.
Now, that's, so do people consider this not retracted because of what the front of the tongue looks like there? Maybe someone in the chat could. That's so this interesting shape to break down here. Because I wonder if this is what people mean when they say, "Oh, look, you don't have to retract the tongue," and they may be thinking about just what they see in the front of the tongue here. But to me, what's significant is we have enough elevation in area of interest number 5 that we can get towards an A sound. And then the tongue is able to retract into area of interest number 3. That's not the one that darkens the sound, but below that, an area of interest that is going to raise all the resonances of the vocal tract. And so when people say the tongue isn't retracted, if the tongue covers area of interest number 3, area of interest number 4, area of interest number 5, and area of interest number 2 in this case, so it's all the way at the end of the mouth, right? And I don't know if anyone is anyone arguing that it doesn't actually stretch all the way to the hyoid bone, and then therefore it's stretching to the larynx. So which part of the tongue do you mean when you say it's not getting retracted? Because I guarantee you, area of interest number 3 here, that's the one near the larynx, is constricted. It has to be. But then, yes, the tongue is not shoved into area of interest number 4. That's the one, shall we say, behind the mouth. Because that one would take him out of this vowel. And he'd also have to change his mouth position to accommodate that. So yes, indeed.
Der ihn kann muss von euch ziehen. Nun hört, wie ich verbotener Frage lohne. Und Rat hab ich zu euch daher gesandt. Mein Vater Parzival trägt seine Krone, seine Ritter ich will Lohengrin genannt.
Oh, those are cool. Wow, and that's a lot of. Today, you'd probably get yelled at by a coach for these, for that sliding down. But
Will Lohengrin
yeah, so now
genannt.
he's using an I vowel that we talked previously about how you can, if you want to stay in this fuller density, more metallic way of doing things, you don't really have your E and to a lesser extent I, but especially E, and yeah, if, because it's kind of based on E. Those can become problematic, and you want to start with a substitute for each one. And that substitute's either going to be, in the case of E, going more towards I, and in the case of I, going more towards I, or I even. And in the case of E, you're going to go towards U, and in the case of I, you're going to go towards U. And those are two options, two sides of the coin, if you will. And here he's finishing with the stronger of the two, which is that instead of when you have E, instead of taking it towards U, and when you have I taking it towards U, that you go towards I. You try to you keep the mouth shape as round as possible, and that's going to get you less purity, if you will. It's less E sounding, but it's much stronger.
Eine Krone, eine
Oh, and before we
Ritterin.
watch it, switch to the bigger view. It's also going to go not with this quick opening blah, 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 jaw thing I was talking about, but more the Pez dispenser approach to opening the mouth. So this Pez dispenser approach doesn't go with you know, that's gonna go with that's gonna go with taking this stuff, say, taking the chin, the larynx, if you will, and the chest, and making a chest and making a fist out of them. Is different from seine Räte ich. Two different directions. And here he's switched from the more mellow approach to things into the stronger, edgier approach to things. And that's incredibly cool. It follows the text. It gives you its acoustic motion that follows the dramatic and musical flow of things, and it's amazing. I love it. Yeah. Okay. Next victim. Okay, now we're going to have something completely different. And this is where, I don't know. This is where I don't know if I'm not sure if I gotta be careful here, or if I just start making jokes, and if I
If I should just start, like, doing this kind of thing,
okay,
Yeah, because we got a hero here, someone with the real man, the sound, and well, what is a hero? Is it just someone who's loud? Someone with a very deep voice, muscles, tall, piercing blue eyes? And what is it?
no, but seriously, what makes a sound heroic? Do you feel like the last guy we heard was heroic? And now I'm going to play some of this, and do you feel like this is heroic or not? And then what does it mean to you? And then what does it mean to you that how should I take it too? How should I take it that they put the words Helden there? So it's not just like, here's this dude singing some music, right? Sony, thank you, Sony. So Sony is not just letting us listen to the music. They put the Fach there. Consuming this means that you're listening to Helden. Well, it doesn't say Helden tenor, and I guess that's like that's the name of the album. Klaus Florian Vogt, Helden. Okay. And the whole story of this guy is he sings like this, but he's singing hero stuff. So
I almost feel like I gotta put this on because then no one will have a recording of me saying he identifies as Helden.
I shouldn't have said it. But I feel like this is okay. Anyway, that's my anyway. I'm not gonna getting into trouble. Okay, lovely. So far, so good. It's Wagner that does that. No, it started. Okay, I'm gonna have to turn this up. Okay. So far it's in neutral, but so far, someone who's not going to be necessarily singing the whole role without any metal in the sound would be singing it this way. So far could be actually anybody singing Lohengrin. Could be that he's just starting it with an effect of not having metal in the sound, as we would expect just about any Helden tenor to have. So much enunciation. Now here I would expect metal, at least by now. Okay, so what can we say so far? We haven't gotten to any loud parts, so far, I guess it could be anywhere, could be anyone. But let's just try to describe the vocal coordinations. So before we mentioned Klaus Florian, Melchior. Lauritz Melchior is singing in what complete vocal technique would call fuller density, and I don't know that they would say overdrive or edge. I don't know what they would say, or that they have it all fleshed out for operatic singing, but I say that this more covered sound he does is based on overdrive, and when he's in this overdrive mode, especially, I mean, I can hear it, but if you're looking for visual clues, you're going to see this really fast jaw. And that when you see this more lifted lip, and he's more subtle about it, but when you see the head rotations start to kick in, and you don't see this chin, chest, and larynx staying close together anymore, then it's going to be in the vocal mode complete vocal technique calls edge, but just in a more operatic way, so with the lower larynx. So that basically we have as our chief modes edge and overdrive. And we could just lump those together and say fuller density metallic modes. So now, so far, we are completely in the neutral vocal mode, so no metal. If I want to demonstrate quickly for you what metal is, so without metal, what's the pitch again? Sorry. In fernem Land, and I could make that louder. In fernem Land. I could try to make it even louder. In fernem Land. I think I started to get some metal in the sound accidentally. But maybe not. So that's a neutral vocal mode, and something more based in the overdrive direction. In fernem Land, and more in the overdrive direction. In fernem Land. The last pitch of my first demonstration went into neutral unintentionally. And that's trying to keep the volume down and still stay in the mood of the piece, but make the difference. Aber euren Schritten, neutral, but so would be aber euren Schritten, and so would be aber euren Schritten. So pay attention to what it is that's being indicated. I'm using terms that are a little bit more specific than this chest and head thing. And I'm going to make the case that it's this chest and head business and Fach business that's actually leading us to weird places. So if I were to add metal to that, aber euren Schritten, and this was more the U direction. Schlitten. And I could try the other direction. Wunderbar euren Schritten. For the more open direction. And because the pitch is not super high, we're not getting into extreme mouth openings or anything like that. And the volume is not high, so still no need for extreme mouth openings. But that's with the metallic. Couple of options in metallic vocal modes as opposed to in the neutral vocal mode. Let's continue listening. And maybe pick out a few more things about the vocal coordination. So now we're using some retraction into area of interest number 4. And if it was done with less taste, someone would go, "Oh, that's a knurdle." But what we have here is functioning the same way as what people call knurdle, and it helps to give more ring to it. So if you were in a neutral, if you wanted to copy this, then I guess it would be an important thing, and probably because nobody wants to be said to have a knurdle, then unfortunately, like if you tried to like get this tip or whatever, you wouldn't be told how to do it. So wait, but before I do show you how to use the knurdle, I need you to watch this important message from the cat. Guys, I'm not kidding. Cat's having hard times, actually. If you're watching this and you haven't donated, you're a cat hater. But that's okay, I like you. I'm glad you're here. Still glad you're here. Yeah, keep coming back. Maybe someday you'll feel like supporting old Mr. Opera.
I work so hard for you. And what do you do for my cat?
Anyway. Okay. So if you want to use this neutral approach, you're going to need some ring somehow. And the way that guys get ring when they're using the neutral approach is, well, I guess the most important one is knurdle. The knurdle function. Let's call it the knurdle. Let's call it knedlik. So the knedlik is not a knurdle. So you don't have to be afraid to use it if you want to do this sound. And let's get an idea of a phrase. Back a bit. Ein Gefäß von wundertätigem Segen. You're gonna have to you have to retract the tongue, but just not into area of interest number 3. Instead, you retract it more into it's area of interest number 3, but not very deep into area of interest number 3. Shall we say, you're not quite centered on area of interest number 4, where you would go to do this peanut thing that I'm talking about. You're not really constricting area of interest number 3 enough to make twang, and then adding the pressure that would cause it to become metallic. But you get ring with some narrowing of area of interest number 3. It's just that you're doing it higher up. Now, if I really exaggerate this kind of thing, I can do this Kermit the Frog thing.
And there's another thing that you could do, which now I haven't totally worked out how this but this kind of stitch chord, stitch. Hey, oh my god, this kind of coordination. So if you combine this with a little bit of cradle, Zigan.
No, his is, well, obviously, his is way better. He's a super successful guy, and I'm not a super successful guy, even though I can make metallic sounds. So, yeah. But if you want this to work, I guess, if you want to do this sound, you need these elements, and you need to get some ring somehow. And he does it with this thing. Lauritz Melchior does not. Drin ein Gefäß von wundertätigem Segen, sie. In this case, sie. I think it's more the first one that he's doing. Von wundertätigem sie. So you get metal in the sound by sie. Essentially, you're pushing the chin, chest, and larynx together, or pulling them. You're making a kind of fist there. And that gives you a way to make the constriction that you need. And that's changing the way that the vocal folds vibrate, yada, yada, yada. The question is that necessary to sing Helden tenor roles? And what, or is it not? There is arguments that, oh no, Wagner just wrote his music for ordinary lyric voices. And I suppose when we have the kind of music scholarship that leads to Zucker, is that also what's leading to us needing to do this? And it's not just that it doesn't sound heroic. It's that it doesn't sound heroic and they kind of ram it down your throat. That it's like being pegged by a castrato. That's actually a little bit how I feel when I listen to this. You know, like Stefan Zucker got his way, sort of, and now we don't have the castrato, I guess, but we do. We have sound that almost identifies as castrato. This is complicated for me. It gives me complex set of emotions. To listen to this, I guess it's a little bit easier, but then to process it and then talk to you guys about it and not get myself canceled, and then also say something that's gonna help someone to sort out is this Helden or not. I guess you can figure out where I'm coming down on this, that calling this sound heroic, so what we've heard so far, is something like listening to Zucker and keeping a straight face, or listening to Zucker knowing it's terrible and then saying something like, "Oh, but what a brilliant musicologist." Like, "Oh, okay, nothing about the vowels are heroic, but listen to those heroic consonants. No one has aspirated a T that heroically since Wagner himself." I don't know. Let's hear a bit more, I guess. It's awfully good diction. Even some breathy sounds. I'm told by a colleague that actually this guy is really loud. His sound is huge. So maybe this has nothing to do with the whole chest thing, and it's just a misunderstanding that what makes the sound heroic is just volume as opposed to the character of it. I think it's the character, this character at any volume, it doesn't matter how loud you make it. It's not heroic. It's a non-hero who identifies as a hero sound. That's what it sounds like to me. And like, I also feel like I'm in a bit of danger, kind of admitting that something is wrong here. And it is the official Mr. Opera policy is it's not my job. If you call me and you ask me for voice lessons, for instance, if you write to therealmropera@gmail.com, that's therealmropera@gmail.com, and you tell me what's on your mind, and one of those things on your mind is, can you help me get a bigger sound? Then I've got to tell you something honest that's actually going to help you do that. And if you call me and you say, "I want to sound like this," it's not my job to tell you, no, you don't want to sound like this. Right? It's just my job to help you manage that. It ought not to be the role of the voice teacher to dictate to the student what it is that they came there to do. That's your job. You figure out what it is you want, and then you hired a consultant to help you do it. Okay, great. But they have a job. But I feel like Sony is a little bit like, I don't know, like forcing me to say that this is heroic. It's not heroic sounding. But at the same time, does that mean that I'm telling a bunch of people like they have to also think that this doesn't sound heroic? I guess no. I think you're entitled to your own opinion if you don't think that this sounds, if you do think that this sounds heroic. But I disagree with you. Same thing. We don't have the knödel now, so I guess that's making the big difference between piano and forte, and I'm absolutely, for anyone who's telling me that I'm hating here. I'm not hating on anybody. I hope it doesn't come across that way. And if people like this, that's great. And I hope they go to the opera. But I wonder if this is kind of forced here. If I wonder if it's really a majority of people that are going to the opera and enjoying being forced to do this kind of identity spiel. Helden.
Alljährlich naht vom Himmel eine Taube.
It's okay. Well, I mean, it's just the same thing going on. Now we're coming to the loud part, I guess.
Neu zu stärken seine Wunderkraft, es heißt, und sie dich.
It's loud, I'm sure. In terms of like the sound pressure level, and I'm sure he's also audible. So everyone's warning like you'll never be heard. He's probably audible. But it doesn't stand out in the mix, even here where they have all the engineers to throw at it. It doesn't. It just gets lost in the mix, and then they're barely playing anything. The orchestra's barely playing anything. And the issue with it isn't it's not the loudness of it. It's the character of it. It's not. I don't know. Not metallic. It's not metallic. In this situation, Lauritz Melchior is not being particularly loud, and you can see his mouth isn't particularly open. And I think we said he even opens the nose a little bit, didn't we say? I think we said that he's opening his nose a little bit to mellow the sound, to not make it too forte. Es heißt der Gral. It was something like that. Der Gral. Der Gral. I think we need to go back and watch. Let's go back and watch.
Songs for which he is best known.
Neu zu stärken deine Wunderkraft,
Okay. It was more in the opening and flaring the lips direction, and with the peanut thing, I remember now. Es heißt der Gral. And it's, yeah, okay. Der Gral. It's not the super loudest thing in the world. It's not the most metallic thing in the world, but it's still metallic. Oh, hi, Kane. Welcome to Mr. Opera. I think this is the first time you stopped in, so welcome. I hope I'm not getting myself canceled here, Kane. So you better stand up for me if anyone's saying how mean I was to Klaus here. And I still got to point out, like, I'm talking about someone way more successful than me, and it's a bad look in some ways. I understand. And maybe it's worth saying, if you're getting your start and you're doing what I'm doing right now, maybe that's okay. I'm not saying a good example for you, because you should be sitting there figuring out, what is he doing better than me? What is he doing better than me that I can steal? And like, forget about all this stuff, right? But here, like, no, we need to talk about what is the basic vocal mode that's being used And maybe we should also talk about like what are the considerations you need to have in mind if you're going to follow this path that Vogt is taking, or if you're going to try to follow what Melchior is doing. I have to be completely like above board here. I could listen to Melchior like all day, and I know that video so well because I did that probably many times. Like spent the day watching that on repeat. So I have an opinion about this that I think is right. And I think you should agree with me that this is not heroic. Okay. But still, how are we defining anything? And if it's not according to vocal coordinations, are we making total messes of things, and winding up like, now we're playing identity games and we're doing I'm a singer who identifies as Helden, and I almost feel trolled, with this stuff. But this does not work for me. Okay, so let's get this back and try any different vocal coordinations, or if it's just this the whole way. And now just for the velum is open for a lot of this, I would say, as well. So that by that I mean the passage to the nose. So if you want to follow this path, then that's something to remember. And I guess a lot of this isn't possible with the nose completely closed. You'll find yourself getting a lot of like creaking and weird effects if you try to keep your nose completely plugged the whole time and you're singing in a neutral vocal mode. But if you're singing in a metallic vocal mode, like edge or overdrive, what CVT calls edge or overdrive, or we don't have to even use those words. If you just stick to a metallic vocal mode, you can not have the nose open and just keep it that way, unless you have N, M, or other consonant sounds that require the nose to be open. And if you're singing in French, you can even like fake your nasal vowels. You can get in touch. I can show you how to do that. Anyway. Now we have this seine. And if you want to do this, do not forget your knödel, because you need that. It helps get the ring in the voice. That's the kind of stitch thing. Like on an U. Is that metal? That, I think. Listen to this one. The engineers are trying to make it sound more heroic. So they're bumping up the 2500 to 3500 range on his audio, maybe. I don't know. Let's just more of I guess we don't need to finish the aria. There's nothing of it. There's nothing going on other than this. But the question is this a good idea? And look, if your name is not Klaus Florian Vogt, I hope the answer is no. I hope this is going to be like a one-time thing, that we have a Helden tenor that sings everything in neutral, because to me it's a gimmick. It's kind of a gimmick. Okay, I mean he looks the part, so I guess maybe that has to do with it. That it's all about image, and if you look like this, then you can now be a Helden tenor without sounding remotely heroic, even to the extreme that you could sing everything in neutral. And granted, the classical folks don't have this term, right? So whoever it is that identifies as a producer or whatever, who's forcing this stuff, whoever it is that's pushing this through, and it's more than one. It's not a conspiracy kind of thing or anything like that. It's just people see what other people are into, and you know how fashion works, and fashion also affects people who are selling us stuff, and they're selling us this. Okay. One second, guys. I've got one of my fans is getting impatient because this live stream is getting long. You're in the show now. Welcome to Mr. Opera. Okay? No, you need to behave. You need to behave. Okay, so whoever's selling us this as Helden, I guess they can do it much easier in a world where Stefan Zucker has defined chest and head voice for us. Where guys like Stefan Zucker can be taken seriously as musicologists, even sounding like that. And saying, okay, I applied my musicology stuff and this is the result. Okay. Wow, you must be a genius musicologist. In that world, we can get to the place where this is marketed as Helden tenor. And I guess we can for a time keep that going. But I'm wondering what happens to the average opera goer who goes to Lohengrin and they're sold this sound as the hero. And they look up there and they're like, wow, damn, he looks so tall. His piercing blue eyes. He looks like, he reminds me there of, I grew up with Kevin Sorbo as Hercules on the CW. No, it wasn't the C. I forget what the channel was. But we would watch TV like it wasn't even digital back then. And we had this Hercules series, and he looked like this. It was like this strong, muscly guy with a mullet. But I don't know. Like like I guess okay, he's not like a real Hercules. He's just an actor or whatever. But what is it that's giving you the hero in this situation, the hero situation, and for the audience? And so, Paul, yeah, I think you would feel cheated. I think the average person is going to feel cheated. Okay, yeah, we get all of our money for stuff from the German government and Austrian government and stuff, or from donors, and it doesn't matter what the average person in the audience feels, because whether they go to the opera or not, or what they think of it, doesn't matter. They're allowed to participate by getting a ticket, but they're not really who we're performing for. We're actually performing for like some kind of administrator guys or some kind of bureaucrat. And I think for a bureaucrat, you can get to this. This is Helden, because you can somehow, like, you can check a box. Well, he's loud enough. Maybe something like that, or the look. I don't know. Or some guy at Sony's like, you know what the album cover is gonna look like? This dude with a sword. That's heroic. I guess something like that. But I think there's also this musicology cover, you know, because I've heard some musicologists apply logic like Stefan Zucker's and play these terminology games like Stefan Zucker plays, and they get taken seriously. And maybe that's part of our problem. Maybe if we just had the ability to say, without giving an opinion about whether or not this is a good way to do things. If we just had accurate ways to describe things, maybe it would be just a little bit harder for people to play games. For people to waste an incredibly huge amount of resources entertaining exactly nobody. Like, I have to wonder, do people go to this and the ones who are saying that it's great, you know, they paid for this and they're like, oh, awesome. Do they really feel like it's heroic? Or do they feel like it's, I don't know, like they're part of a performance where we say it's heroic, but like the real performance is convincing yourself that this is heroic. Like, and the fact that you're able to do it makes you one of the elite opera goers, in a sense. You're an elite consumer of art, because you're able to go and hear Klaus Florian Vogt, and because he identifies as Helden, it sounds heroic to you. And maybe you're lying through your teeth when you tell others that it sounds heroic to you, but it doesn't matter because nothing means anything. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm maybe I'm looking into this too much. Reading into this too much. So Kane, I can't speak to his connections. I don't know about that. But that would be a great thing to put on the list of what can I do better? What can I steal from this guy? And so you know, because I'm sitting here going, well, I think I could do better. And I'm trying my best not to rag on some guy who's more successful than me and just look like I'm that guy. But I am that guy, and I mean, okay, fine. I think I'm a cool version of that guy. though. Let's just say. So Kane, that's interesting. So you think so? There's a market for this sound, is what you're saying. But what I want to know is why does lead sound like this? Why? Why? Who are the people that want lead to sound? I don't want leader to sound like this. I like if I want to hear Winterreise, I'm putting on Hans Harter. Or like I'd love to hear Lawrence Melchior singing Winterreise to me. Or Schwanengesang. But I don't think I'd like to hear Klaus sing those things to me. I think there's a very small number of things I'd like to hear him sing to me because I don't particularly like operatic tenor singing without metal in it. I think it's almost like not worth it. It's not even worth having at concert to me. I'm not into it. It's not like I only like metallic singing. I love non-metallic singing, like in other genres. I love like you um, Taylor Swift. I mean, don't tell anyone, but I love Taylor Swift, right? But I don't need Taylor Swift when I go to Lohengrin. That's the thing. Uh, uh, well, Ian Bostridge was my. I guess that was when I was a kid. When I was a kid. When I was like a student, he was kind of a big deal singing his leader stuff, and I hated it. But what I didn't realize was I guess I was blocking it out. But the Met was coaching me to sound like that too. So it was, and then I was in this weird. It was like Desdemona from This Is Opera. So I was like hating on Ian Bostridge, but I was sounding pretty Bostridgey. Yeah, there's old recordings, and then you can find recording. I need to find that stuff, but I have stuff from when I was like 21 or something, singing Cello e Mar, and it's all metallic, and it's all lyric, and then you come back in like 5 years, and I sound not like this, but I was more using a lot of curbing. Um, so still metallic, but this kind of half metallic vocal mode. But anyway, so I guess I'm gonna leave it there. It wasn't. I hope I don't get canceled over this. I was gonna try to leave a cliffhanger for what I'll cover tomorrow. I'll do something tomorrow though. If you guys wanna have some input, let me know if there's something you want to cover tomorrow. It's Sunday night. Sunday night usually's got. Oh, jeez, this thing is getting really. This is why we gotta stop because this thing is getting crazy. Um, it needs to go. It needs to go outside and do the things dogs do. You need to do things dogs do. Yeah, yeah. You need to do that. Yeah. Hmm? Okay. So, but I've given up completely on ever getting being able to like sell ads on my channel or anything like that, and it's not enough viewers anyway. In the topic, so I'm gonna try to do more videos reacting like this, watching some more in-depth clips, and then I figure as long as I can get the videos unblocked, like the last one we did on screaming and other rough vocal effects in opera is really annoying because it gets blocked. Like they don't just do copyright notice and then it's like, well, you can't monetize your video. They do a copyright thing and then they block it so no one can see the video, and it's total bullshit. And who blocked it was Arena di Verona and their Tosca video. It's such BS because it's totally what I'm doing here is totally fair use. Now the dog is
Dog is setting off. Oh my god. The dog is so good, god.
You guys, this is I. Oh my god! Oh my god! Yeah, I'm just gonna have to go here because. Anyway, the real Mr. Opera at gmail.com. Send your requests.
Dovrebbe un cantante servirsi della voce di petto? No.
The straw.
It's just a straw, right?
It's not just any old straw. We've sized it very particularly, you guys.
So the SMBT Straw Pro comes with a minimum of 40 resistance configurations in one device.
And then we have 2 straws that are the exact same size, diameter, and length. And this is so that we have options.
After you've practiced the exercises for maybe 5 minutes,
you'll see here that the vocal cords aren't in sync with each other.
You have to put more work within the body to just get things going because the straw isn't providing you with enough.
it is very important that you let no air escape around the straw between your lips or through your nose.
But the thing is with that, it cuts off the nasal resonance part of singing, which is very important to singing.
It's almost as if you're trying to release it out through the straw to whatever's in front of you.
You will find when you go back to normal speech that your voice seems to be coming out of your eyes instead of your throat.
If you are splashing yourself, you're creating volcanoes, and that is not allowed.
A wise man once said, "There is a sucker born every minute."
No, 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 no. Oh, hell no.
So just grab a straw.
For those of you who talk several hours a day and your voice gets tired, here's a tip to keep you talking. Press your voice like this